Hey there, YouTube friends, maskedbandit here. Thanks so much for hanging out with me today. I always do appreciate it. And welcome back to Somerdale. As our dog snorts back there. Yeah, I have a dog now. Well, it's not really my dog. My in-laws are living with us, and they have a dog, so therefore we have a dog. And they're on vacation right now, so we are watching said dog. Anywho, welcome back to Somerdale. It's been a little while since we had a Somerdale update. Basically, I've been a lot busier than I thought I was going to be. We had our 2-week trip in June, and that got me right to the end of June, and 4th of July, and then immediately after that, my sister came to visit for a handful of days, so I haven't had a lot of time to play up until recently. So that's why you might have noticed it's been a little while. But we're back now in Somerdale, and what we're working on today is we're actually taking Mike Sheet's advice. He offered some feedback in the last episode saying that there's lots of other generic styles of architecture out there that are not clapboard related, which is completely true, and it's one of my defaults. Like, when I get stuck, that's what I build. I build using the clapboard pieces, and I make everything look that super generic look, which is fine, it's great, but there's other things out there too. So what I did is, I remember the Ballroom from Cedar Point as being one of those cool structures that was still kind of generic, but then also had something a little different to offer. And so that's what we are kind of emulating in a really moderate sense. We are, like, that was my idea. And I looked at some pictures and to see how they kind of put things together. And so I wouldn't even say the shape. It looks like the one at Cedar Point has actually gone through some major renovations. Like, I found an old picture of it where it was a true ballroom, and it was much bigger and much grander, much more archways and entrances and all that. And modern day, it looks like it's an office now more than anything else. And I think there's an arcade under it and stuff. I don't know what ours does here. Maybe I figured ours was going to be like some sort of food court or something. But the idea of an arcade is cool. But I do close it off, so it's not currently anything. But I just wanted to break out of the clapboard mold here. I wanted to try something a little different. And it's always a little interesting when you try a new style, or a style that you haven't done in a while. When I shared this on Bronation, people immediately, Ruby actually immediately was like, oh, that looks like, I'm getting Surfside vibes. And yeah, a little bit like our entrance to Surfside, and a little bit like the ballroom we did for Surfside. It seems to be a standard of those older parks. Like, you have a grand ballroom. That was one of the main things to keep people visiting. So that's what we went for here. And again, and I think it resembles the stuff from Surfside so much because aside from Surfside, I don't think I've really used much of the vintage pieces. So anytime I start using heavy vintage piece work, it's going to look like it did when I used them last time. But yeah, this is the main part of today's episode, but I did get a lot of different parts done. Big shout out to Berlin, or whatever he's going now, on Bronation. I posted a picture where it was kind of pretty much in this state, and asked for some feedback, and he, along with some other people, suggested that the towers on either side were too large, and I should really use windows as walls, and narrow those up. And I was apprehensive. I was a little not interested in that at first because I just didn't want to do it, but after I did it, as soon as I did it, I was like, yeah, it looks so much better. So you can actually see we did a big cut. I didn't record that part, but you can see now there's a lot more detail and there's a lot more going on here. One of the things people are still a little unsure about are those bay windows with the extra towers. The issue with those is those towers with the little lights on them look way different than the other ones do. So in the cinematics here, when you get a better view of it from at a reasonable rate, let me know. Do you think those little towers that flank the bigger tower should stay, or should we go, or should we change them up? I'm not sure. I like the idea of them, maybe not the execution, unless everyone and their brother is like, nah, that's too much. It might be too much, so I'm not sure, but I like the size of the building. I went ahead and I rotated it about 30 degrees from where I originally started building it, and that gave me the opportunity to actually make it bigger. And now it is parallel with the main path and the chairlift. So that's super cool that it kind of works like that, and I'm excited to make that whole little scene look good. So adding some little like built-in details here along the side to kind of make the whole building make sense. And after that, we're probably going to be jumping around and doing some other things. But yeah, I only wanted the front to be really busy. I wanted the back and most of the side to just look pretty plain. I figured that would make sense. Theoretically, if they remodeled this building, they would have kept the part facing the actual park the same, and then everything behind it, they would have probably just done whatever they had to, the simplest sort of thing to do. This actually helped me solidify the backstage area as well. I do some backstage planning here, and we're actually going to have an entrance to the backstage from underneath Purple People Eater, the coaster. So that'll be cool. I think I'm going to have like a 2-lane road basically that hugs the coaster and brings it right to the ballroom there. And then that'll be one of the main backstage areas. So that's pretty cool. I went ahead and redid the queue for like the 1000th time. Now that we had this ballroom in place, I figured it would make much more sense now to do the queue. So we did, and it ended up much better than it was before, I think. I'm pretty happy with it. It's all but solidified at this point that this is what the queue is going to be. And in fact, we actually decorate it in this episode as well. So you can see we're moving on from the ballroom. I figured that was a perfect spot for a ride, and look at that, the swings fit just so nicely there, and they create a nice little vibe there, the swings and the ballroom, and sort of some of the older looks of the park. I kind of like it. The only issue is that these two queues now, the swing ride and the coaster, are so close together. There's really nothing. I feel like this might be a bit of wasted space, but I'm not sure there's anything else that I could do here to really make it work. But I think everything will be okay. I'm taking full advantage of that terrain, the asphalt terrain, and that's helping me so much when it comes to little gaps and stuff. I did, however, use the adventure pieces as like poured concrete for the queue. I figured that would still be a good thing to do. And I actually made there we were sticking our archer there. Look at how short those fences are. We hike them up quite a bit. And then we're going with these metal, those standard, the ugly metal that get really hot, and, for the cattle pens. That's pretty much what we're doing here for our queue. And I think it really helps add just that utilitarian, basic, uninspired, uninteresting queue. And that's what it is. Like, I want it to feel like it's kind of a drag to wait in this line. I think that's probably the most realistic you can do when you get into these long back and forth swatches. Like, I remember standing in line for Steel Vengeance at Cedar Point. Sucks. It just sucks. And I think a lot of times we overestimate just how much shade cover there is in these queues. There were several times where I was standing in line, the sun just beating on my head. And I'm bald, so it's really hard. It hurts a lot. But I think we're too nice to our peeps. I think we're too expensive with our shade coverings. So I really tried to make sure that we did sort of the barest minimum when it comes to shade cover. And I think that actually makes it look more realistic. So we're throwing down some concrete here to look like they poured the pad for the queue to go on. It's something that Mike Sheets does quite a bit. And actually, this was his idea to redo the queue in the narrowest width. I think it's 7 feet. Is that the narrowest? I don't know. Whatever the narrowest one is, that's the one we're using. So these adventure blocks are perfect for this, though. They are so good. I do enjoy them. I wanted to make sure that you couldn't goof around in the structure of the coaster, so we're going to throw in some basic chain link fencing, keep people out. And I don't know if I have a recording of it, but there's this awesome sign by Idro on the workshop Theme Maker's Toolkit item, and it simply says, "Please try not to be a dick." And I love it so much. It's going in every project from now on. So I put that sign on the fence. Here it is. There it is. Please try not to be a dick. So basically, don't climb in there. Don't be an idiot. And that's what we want. So that's what we're doing. And then what we're doing here is we are going to try to create ourselves a little planter with seating. This is a cool little trick if you've never done it before. It's really easy. You just put that's the shortest bench. I measured all of them. The adventure bench is the shortest, so it's the easiest to do it with. And then you build your planter and make sure that it barely covers your benches. And there you go. The peeps will sit on them and it'll look really, really convincing. So I wanted this to look very, quite formal is the word, I guess. Yeah, I wanted it to look pretty formal because this is, in front of the main, classic building in the park, so I wanted this area to look really nice. So I did some planter work. It's not my specialty. I did some planting, some fleurs. I'm not the best at them, but I think it turned out okay. I am really happy with this. And it's silly to say I'm really happy with this rectangle, but I am really happy with this rectangle. I think it turned out pretty well. Hopefully you will agree. Getting to use these topiaries that I don't use very often, I think they were a nice little addition. It automatically adds that, like, regalness. Is that a word? It is now. It adds that regalness to the project that I think is that this area would have. And then it's a matter of popping in some flowers. There's going to be some random pauses in the video. It's because I think my kid started crying. I do most of my playing and recording during their nap, during the little one. The older one doesn't nap anymore, but the little one still does. The younger child still naps, and I do all my recording during his nap time. So if you notice a rando pause, it's because I had to go and soothe my youngest because he wanted to get up, and it definitely wasn't time to get up because Daddy wasn't done recording yet. No, it was because he hadn't slept enough, and also because I hadn't finished my recording yet. Shoring up some details here, adding some simple, I guess, curbing. I was undecided about whether or not I wanted to do this, but I went for it because I needed a way to close off that area between the swing and the ballroom, so we just put the fence in, and I thought, why not? Tried to put some trees in, but it's way too close to the peeps' feet, so we just put some bushes in, and that is going to be good enough. So, yeah, I had something I was going to say, and then I totally forgot. But anyway, just cluttering up this area here. I wanted it to look like, it feels like this would be a hard area to access, so I figured it would be pretty good just to kind of clutter it up with some overgrowth, and then we put these poplars in the back there, and I think it actually makes it look a lot more complete. It's amazing what a couple trees will do. So throwing some windows on the side there just to kind of complete the idea. And then since there's all this tarmac, I didn't want to put permanent planters in, so I thought these little, vases and stuff would be cool. So spam these around. I think that adds a nice little pop of color. And then one of the things, I'm not sure if I talked about it very much yet in any of my Planet Coaster videos, but the one big thing everybody at Cedar Point noticed was just how many freaking benches there are everywhere. There are benches everywhere. So I tried to plop in as many as I could. We got our tiny frozen ball cart there. it's in the, I guess it's in the same universe as Bro Coaster. We've got tiny frozen balls, and we're gonna plop a Fizz Whiz truck in, or a cart in there. We'll have all kinds of those little snack carts. I gotta go get me a Pucker Up from one of our other projects from Ruble Trillions. He made Pucker Up. And then the last thing in today's episode is actually working at the front of the park and getting a bit more of this shored up. We're going to actually do an interior, pretty simple interior here, but an interior nonetheless, and we're gonna use some pre-made items that are all in-game pieces, not made by me, and we're also going to use some Theme Maker's Toolkit items. If you have watched the most recent episode of Zuri Gardens, number 16, just came out on Sunday. You should check that out. If you haven't, you should. There's a big coaster in there. There's a mock coaster in there that I want to bring. I want to bring a mock coaster into this project somewhere. But I also did a gift shop where I'm going to use the exact same assets in this video that I did in that one because they are just too perfect. So, but first we had to get the interior. I love these planks. These are probably still one of my favorite pieces in the game. They are so useful for so many things. And we use them both as ceiling panels and as a floor. So here they are. There's those workshop items. This one is not Theme Maker's Toolkit. These are all in-game pieces. The clothing is too big. I thoroughly overestimated how big this shop was, but look at how perfectly this little shelving unit fits in there. And then these little guys, I think it makes it look so nice. And the fact that it's a functioning shop now, I'm really happy with. I think it's a Hats Fantastic, actually. So we'll pop a Hats Fantastic sign and put like Hats Fantastic sold here or something. And then we've got some collectible pins and some postcards. Those are Theme Maker's Toolkit items, and they are fantastic. I had to make sure I didn't have any wall pieces sticking out randomly. That would not have been too great. And this took me, as you can see, I don't know why I had such a hard time putting that goofy angled piece in, but I did. Little bit of trim, little bit of bits and bobs to kind of make it look a little more complete. Nothing fancy, but just enough to get it done. pop the big old Planet Coaster, King Coaster. I don't know. I like those. I like to use those if I have the floor space. I should probably put one somewhere else if I have room. But, oh, there goes my phone. I didn't silence my phone before I started this episode. I'm such a professional YouTuber, isn't it crazy? So actually, that's just about going to do it for this episode. We're going to run into some cinematics. If you enjoyed, be sure to hit the like button. And if you haven't already, please consider subscribing so you don't miss any of the fun things that we do here on the channel. With all that being said, have yourself a great day, great night, great whatever, and I will see all of you for the next episode of Summerdale Amusement Park. Take care, everyone. Talk to you later. Bye-bye.